Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Hello, Houston. The Expedition 63 crew is ready for the event.
JSCPAO, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is JSCPAO. How do you hear me?
JSCPAO, loud and clear.
Great. We'll start this off with a question from Twitter. It's probably for you, Chris. It's from Rick. When they opened the hatch, did Dragon have that new car smell?
It absolutely did. In fact, there was a little bit of space smell in the vestibule, and then when we got that hatch open, you could tell it was a brand new vehicle with smiley faces on the other side, smiley face on mine, just as if you had bought a new car, the same kind of reaction. Wonderful to see, my friends, and wonderful to see a brand new vehicle.
All right, we'll start off with a question from Bill Harwood, CBS. Let's start off with a question from Bill Harwood, CBS.
Hey, can you hear me now? Testing 1, 2. Could you guys hear me now?
I'm clear, Bill.
Okay, sorry about that. I just want to go back to what Bob was saying yesterday, describing the ride uphill. You were comparing it a little bit to shuttle. I was more interested in how did the first stage of the Falcon 9 feel compared to the shuttle when it was on solids? How did the second stage feel? You made it sound like maybe it was a little rougher than the shuttle on the main engines. And just wondering if there was ever a point in there when you looked over at Doug and went, wow, this isn't quite what I was expecting.
Well, Bill, you took the words right out of our mouth. The summary from yesterday was good, smoother first stage, a little rougher second stage than we saw on shuttle, and that I think both of us were expecting. We did actually comment on it while we were going uphill. I think we tried to verbalize as much of the new experiences we were having just to make sure they were for real between the two of us. We were sensing the same things.
All right, let's go to a question from Stephen Clark.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. Just to follow up on that, what was the sensation at MECO and at stage separation, since that's something like a new engine in flight?
I think the question was about the difference with staging between the Space Shuttle and the Dragon, since we didn't shut down the main engines on the Space Shuttle like we went through for first stage and second stage. There was a significant difference between the solid rocket boosters on the shuttle and that second stage, and so I think we all definitely felt that separation and heard the clunk associated with it. Doug and I both commented on, I think Doug commented on it first, that stage and light. If you want to talk a little bit about our experience with the suits.
Yeah, the suits in general, Bob and I have had a ton of time in those suits. I bet you we've donned and doffed those suits a couple hundred times. So the suits themselves, if you're not familiar with them, they're custom designed and custom fitted, so they're very comfortable. They were actually much easier to get in and out of in zero G, as we figured out over the course of the 2 days. And yeah, we complimented the suit team. Those things worked very well, and everything we expected going uphill.
Is there any perhaps feedback for SpaceX and NASA that you have about any potential changes that you would make for the next crews who fly on Crew Dragon?
I think for both of us also, the Houston...
Be inspired by the things that you all are doing. What is your message to those who are watching from Houston, from all of these areas in Space City? What's your message to them?
Well, I think my first thing I would say about that is, just never quit what you're doing. This was an extremely long road for Bob and I. We last flew in 2010 and 2011, and then when NASA stopped flying shuttles, that was in the middle of 2011, and it's just taken that hard work and dedication over the last almost 9 years to get us where we're at now, back in launching rockets from the United States back at Space Station, docking to the front of Space Station where shuttle used to dock. And I would just say, take a message from NASA in that anything is possible. You know, we've had a really rough couple of months, and just to be able to show the country what the agency's made of, what the Commercial Crew Program did, and what SpaceX did, I hope they take some pride and a sense of accomplishment of seeing that. You know, for me anyway, you know, the historical aspect of it is certainly notable, but I think it's something to maybe consider after this mission's complete. You know, we're not even in any way, shape, or form halfway through the mission yet. We've just docked. We still got to do our mission here with Chris, and then undock, depart, and do a re-entry, and then a landing, and then a recovery. So plenty of work to do, and you know, we'll probably think a lot more about that when the time comes.
Hanukkah Whitering with Space.com.
Dock,
Doug and Bob,
and do a re-entry, and then a landing, and then a recovery. From the time we walked out of the ONC building until we docked with Space Station, and of course we're still doing it, but you know, it was just focusing on everything we could do to make sure we did what we needed to do. I think it's a really cool looking vehicle. I know my son thinks so, and it does everything we need it to do for this mission, so we're very happy with that part of it. Let's see.
And I cracked open the window to get a picture, and I realized that inside that spacecraft were two of my colleagues and friends, and they're going 17,500 miles an hour, and we're going 17,500 miles an hour, and we are bringing these two vehicles together with a computer and them backing it up, and I...
Space Station.
Can also have teams ready to respond so that if they do strand, we're there that much faster and more animals will survive the event.
In Cape Cod, the annual number of stranded animals ranges from less than 10 to over 200. Some of the most affected species include pilot whales and white-sided dolphins, creatures that are typically found in deeper water, rather than along the coast. The ongoing search for answers began 400 miles away at the Bureau of Ocean Energy.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Space Station. We are absolutely ready for the event.
SpaceX, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Benji Reed from SpaceX. How do you hear me?
Hello, Benji. We hear you loud and clear. Welcome to the Space Station in virtually and physically.
Thank you, Chris. It's an honor to join you guys today. And it's awesome to see all of you guys up there together. First, I just want to say thank you again to Bob and Doug and your families from all of us here at SpaceX, all of our locations, all of our partners, all of our vendors, everyone for trusting us to bring you up there. I hope your first day there has been great so far.
Hey, thanks, Benji. It's same back at you. You know, congratulations to the folks out at Hawthorne, McGregor, and at Kennedy. Just an incredible journey we've had the last couple days. A great day in space today, our first day of work on Space Station, but what a great ride on Dragon and Falcon 9 to get us here. Everything worked exactly the way we planned it to work, and that's a credit to the teams there in Hawthorne and McGregor and Kennedy. Just it's a pretty awe-inspiring trip so far, and very humbling, and just we're just so proud to represent SpaceX and NASA in this new next launch capability.
Absolutely. It's excellent to hear your voice, and it's excellent to just see you guys up there floating around and spinning Earth and doing all these great things. A number of our employees have asked questions that we'd like to throw your way here. Probably the first one, and you've had this in a different version before, but what did it feel like riding on Falcon 9?
All right. You know, we certainly have talked about it, but it never gets old talking about riding on Falcon 9. Just from the time the engine's lit, the first 2.5 minutes to staging was about like we expected, except, you know, you can never simulate the G's, so as the G's built, you could certainly feel those. Also, what I thought was really neat was how sensitive we were to the throttling of the Merlin engines. That was really neat. You could definitely sense that as we broke Mach 1 and went transonic and broke Mach 1. We could definitely feel that. In fact, I said it to Bob, and then the next thing you know, the call was made, and we didn't even need to look at the speed. You could tell just by how the rocket felt, and so it's a very pure flying machine. And then I think the next thing that really stood out for me was first stage separation with the engine cut off, and that separation event going to 0G for a split second, and then the Merlin vacuum engine lighting. That was a pretty neat event. That was a highlight of the ascent for me. And then once the MVAC started, then it was that kind of driving fast, very fast on a gravel road is how it felt the rest of the way up. A little bit of vibrations, not anything that was really unpleasant, but you certainly knew that there was a powerful engine behind you at the time, and that obviously took us all the way to orbit about 6 minutes later. And once again, you know, the G's and how the engine throttled to control the G's, and then straight to cutoff, and then just like with shuttle.
Well, looking out the window, I had the opportunity to take a few photos. Hopefully you've seen some of them. They turned out pretty nice. But I could see the docking mechanism, and with a big lens, I could really look at the intricacies of the
came alive underneath us. It was a little bit different than our shuttle experience, where we came to the vehicle came alive underneath us. It was a little bit different than our shuttle experience, where we came to the vehicle after it was tanked, and so as we marched through,
and you know, the G's and how the engine throttle, you go franeously.
Jet engine, they're stealing about.
When we got to go for tanking, and so when the tanking operation started, you know, Dragon really and Falcon 9 really came alive underneath us. It was a little bit different than our shuttle experience, where we came to the vehicle after it was tanked, and so as we marched through the loading countdown, I think when we got to 16.5 minutes and we got started on the locks for the second stage, I think that we said, well, we haven't done this before, because it was something new from what had happened just a few days earlier. And I think each one of the events, we just marked them off as, oh, well, we never did that before. Oh, we never did that before. And it was pretty cool, kind of marching our way all the way uphill. And so all the way to the point where we saw.
And then sending more people up to help keep Space Station running. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Benji. Thank you, Hawthorne. Thank you, McGregor. Thank you, Kennedy.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes our event as we count down to 20 continuous years of humans living and working on the International Space Station.
Thank you to all participants from SpaceX. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.